Hi, welcome back to Lily's Bonsai. Hope you're doing well. But first of all, I just would like to say thank you to the 1,000 plus now people who have subscribed to the channel. That's really encouraging. It's really picked up recently. There's been a bit of a delay in getting some videos out. I had a bit of a nasty flu. It's kind of set me back a little bit. A lot of kind of potting videos I wanted to do and show you, but kind of been delayed, like I say. But one thing that I've got to kind of push on with is something of my little brother's. It's a pseudo larix or a golden larch. More than coming into bud now, or broke bud almost. But really, I'm just going to upsize the pot on this. A few of you might have seen in a previous video a few weeks back. This exact plant, obviously, pushing out of the pot, and we made a concrete pot for it. The feet came out with a bit of a failure, but I've since amended that a little bit as well, so that's kind of something cool to show you. But yeah, really, I just want to kind of not slip pot this, as it were, because it's going into a larger pot, so it'll be plenty of room, but just kind of get it out of this pot carefully and then without disturbing too much, put it into the other pot, really, and maybe we'll adjust the angle. I think it just wants to be straightened back up a bit. For no particular reason other than it looks quite nice, this has been put to the front here. There is quite a big nasty scar here, which to be fair looks more like helium tissue pulled over now, so I think with a little clean up over that at some point that would improve vastly. The naberi round the base is actually quite equal, although it's a bit random how it comes out. We're not really going to change much about that at this point now. And if I spin it around, so it's got quite a nice taper from the trunk there going up. And I must say, my little brother really just enjoys the tree for what it is. He doesn't have the same principles or maybe the same way of thinking about a bonsai as some people may who practice it, but he equally he enjoys what he's got here. And you see from the other side here, which angled up a little bit, could be quite a nice front. The tree actually comes back towards you here. You can see where you could chop this if you wanted to, and then have a new leader and really kind of get that taper going a little bit more without being too drastic. But I'm under strict instructions just to repot this tree and nothing else. I'm not allowed to cut anything off of it, even though we spent a day making him a pot. You think you let him cut a few branches off, but I'll let him off. Like I say, he enjoys it for what it is. I might just put a bit of wire on these ones as well, just to correct them a bit because they're kind of bunching up there. But yeah, I think first job really, I'm going to just take these odd bits of wire that we've got on here, that I've just been kind of separating things out. We get these out of the way before we make it a handful. Carefully remove these. Get that out of the way. So that actually has held them branches. Not that we'd really want to keep all that in an ideal scenario, but it's kind of spread them out. And before the kind of spring flush really pushes out, I'll get these pieces of wire out, because with larches they're quite fiddly once the needles come out. Same again with this one. I'd really like to shorten this branch, and in fact we might take a little bit off of it. I'm sure there would be no disagreements with that. This would actually make quite a nice bit to carry on there, and you could develop some taper in the branch there. Certainly with this tree as well, if you've had a good enough look at it, hopefully we show it in good enough detail, and if it was yours, what would you do with it? Like I say, I'm not allowed to cut anything off of it. I don't think it needs anything too drastic doing to it really, other than it's kind of refining now. He's grown a nice tree here. I must admit, this is probably the first repot it's ever had in the time he's owned it, which I'd imagine would be 5 or 6 years, maybe another year. So let's not not much anchor in that one anyway. It was only used as an anchor there, so we'll continue with this piece as it's fiddlier. Yeah, so it'll be really quite interesting to see root wise what is going on in there, because you can see it's pushed itself out of this pot and there's barely a dead twig on this, so it's quite healthy, you know. We cut some off it last year as well, just to kind of slow some of them branches down at the top there. You see they've got a bit thick. Yeah, it generally, even though the pot's so pot bound, you know, and he's only really been watering it, maybe the occasional liquid feed, and it's, you know, thrived in there really. But we're just going to kind of, like I say, we'll up pot it for now into something I've made, and then maybe next spring, if we catch it earlier, we could do a little bit of root work, get rid of some of this bulk, and he can maybe get it back into a kind of a smaller, or, you know, a slightly smaller pot than what I'm going to give him. Or maybe it'll look good in there. We'll have to see. So I've just quickly wired those two branches that were touching there. I think if we did use this as a front, they're actually quite nice. And it's got some good trunk line there as well. Like I say, if you'd allow me, we could cut it here or somewhere even lower and start again, but that's quite nice there. But yeah, so let's see how hard this is to get out of this pot. And now this is kind of, I don't really want to go poking around with too much down there if we can avoid it, so we really want this pot for another one of his trees. I'm just going to carefully use the edge of this little giver thing, see if we can scrape out a little bit. Brought out a nice bit. The frost has probably knocked back a few of the roots around the edge. Let's give it another little tea, see if that's helped. There we go. Getting quite nice with it. Oh, it's full of mycelium as well. You see it's growing its own network with no soil. It's just growing this crazy, what looks like spider's web, but that's all mycelium. In fact, as well, all these parts we'll keep and put some of that in his new soil to make sure that continues. That's probably why this tree's thriving so well in that pot. I have definitely learnt my lesson with leaving something out this winter, which I'm quite disappointed about, which will reveal that failure in maybe a tour video. I reckon the pot's got a little something somewhere, but maybe we just, I think it's alright. I think he's got lucky there. Like I say, we're not gonna get too involved with this. All I really want to do is, where this is all hollow now, is just get us back to something usable. Look at those roots. I just want to peel this hollow bit off, because that's just going to sit on top of the soil and float around. So you can just get it back to something like that, even like this. Don't mind some of this hanging up in the pot. We're getting a little bit late on for this now, so we won't be too nasty to it. And these edges on, we're only going to break the tension. The berry he's got here is pretty much the berry he's got. We're not going to be able to do much about that, so unless we can encourage a few new roots at some point. A lot of that is kind of untangled, whether it'll be any good. So we'll take some of this away. It just smells like a mushroom farm here as well now. So that's down to the original root ball there. Some quite chunkier roots in there. Some scissors. Quite a few of these longer ones. I'm just going to scuff this up. And then we'll check the pot, see if we have to do anything else. I really don't want to have to do too much more to it, 'cause it's not mine. I may be being kind to push it a little bit if it was mine. And I like all this, you know, as it is really, and I'm sure he does, so he won't disturb that either. There we go. This is the junk we need to get rid of. They are great roots, but right, so the moment of truth. I think we'll probably have to slim the side down a little bit. It's not far off. I'd like just to get a little bit of fresh soil down the side. And it's going to sit in there really nice. So I think we're going to have to take a little bit more off this. But it's got more room, it's got more depth. So I think that's actually, I thought this pot was a little bit big, to be honest. I kind of like the grey with the bark. There's a few stories in this pot now as well. I did kind of wonder how strong these things are, and I think I've tested that one to the maximum with this one. So obviously I did the video where I made this pot, a couple back, obviously minus the feet. It was just like that there. So it's actually got a nice texture, and I like the way the colours come through, because this was meant to be moulded and with a nice pattern and stuff on the edge. But it didn't work out, so I just flattened it off, and then the different layers come through. So it's got a really nice kind of nice colours going on. They're quite equal as well. And then I added some feet later on. So all I did for that is kind of experimental. But I'd put a finish on the pot as such, just a patio sealer, which seems to do a really good job, by the way. So I had to sandpaper and rough it up. Put a cement slurry on there, and then just put quite a strong, you know, like 1-to-1 sand and cement mix on there, and just carefully trowel it, you know, to make sure the edges all joined up. Went round it with a sponge afterwards. There was no separation. I kept a damp towel over it obviously all the time, and you know, after a day it kind of hardened up. It got run under the tap a few times just to help kind of slow down the curing. So it seems to have worked out, and we got a nice level pot. You know, because it's kind of nice to get this off the ground so the drainage can actually vent, you know, get away from there properly and not hang around. So yeah, quite happy with how that's come out in the end. And then to add a bit more to that, while we're there, I did kind of a door that I was working on fell over. This is a bit clumsy really. But took this pot with it, flipped it off the tile, it landed on the floor, the tile landed on top of it. It took a few chips out of the edge, and as you can see, I've managed to almost, there's one there that I'll let you see, that was the biggest one. So they fixed in really well, and this pot still has a really nice ring to it. It actually has a pottery sound. So I know we've done no cracks in it, there's no micro cracks. Running it under the tap normally reveals them quite quickly, and yeah, it survived it, so incredibly strong. So I have no doubts for these pots really now a lot I've you know, accidentally tested that theory. I'm gonna have to take a little bit more off this root ball just to make it a bit more comfortable in there. A bit of what was that spiral hovering around, and this is what's pushed it out of the pot. So we're quite lucky it didn't crack the pot really. It's gone for heading up rather than down, out. There we go, that's nice and clean actually. You can see you can still go further with that. but time of year. I don't really go any further with that. So that looks like a lot of roots. It is a fair bit of roots, but they're all in that hollow at the bottom. So right, I think I'm happier with that for now. Although we can't get lots and lots around the edge, we can get at least a little bit of fresh soil down there. I'm trying to put together like a nice mix and come away from too much sand and gravel, because I think it's a bit too cold in the mix, or in a smaller pot over winter. And like I say, in the video coming up, a little tour video we're going to do, we'll see firsthand why I'm coming away from that. So I think that's the best we can do with that. Plenty of room here, there's room underneath, and we'll get a little bit down the sides there. I don't really want to push it any further. It's not my tree, and it's definitely getting quite advanced now. So, and the pot really, with how we've just cleaned up the root ball, is really giving us an easy ride on positioning it. And I think if you wanted to now treat this back as the front again and come away from that scar, it's got some great taper movement. The trunk's clean, these branches are good either side here, and there's the option here of cutting some off, like I say, or lower, but that seems like a really good option there. It's got a few little skinny bits as well where you can start again and create some more movement, because it's fairly straight, and I bet it'll be fairly hard to bend. Right, so we'll just dress the pot up. I haven't tested these holes are fully clear, but I'm sure they'll be fine. Bit of the old trusty plasterer's mesh. Again, it'll last forever. In here I've got just some normal compost, and I've added this large grain sand that I've found, just a little bit. I'm coming away from sand and gravel, like I say, but that I feel does break up the compost quite nicely. And then there's perlite in there as well. This is probably at about 40% to the compost, and then the other part that I'm going to add in there, small bark chips, some pine bark as well, just pine bark, and then I'm going to almost match the perlite in there. I think this larch will be quite used to that kind of, you know, soil in the wild, I would imagine. In the woodlands around here that are just like a thick peaty kind of mat of rotten down material, they seem to thrive. So I think that will be a good addition. I can just show you the sand as well that I did use in there. I'll just show you a little sample of it. They're really quite big grains. So I just put probably, you know, out of that compost that was in there, probably 10% of that, you know, of sand at a guess or whatever. I'm just going to give that a little mix up, see how we get on with that. I think that's well mixed up enough. I'll have a handful of the bark in just to break it up a bit more. We're going to be back in there in spring. Trying to see how that behaves. So that is a really nice open textured mix there. I'm sure that's going to hold some moisture as well. So I'll put a couple of handfuls of that in there. check now where we're at height wise. Yeah, I think that will actually be quite good. I don't really want to mound it up too much. I think that root in time there, you could still probably wire that down a bit there, so. We make contact with it all. Just going to change the angle a little bit up this end. There we go. Yeah, I think that's a good angle. I'm going to try and sneak this under this root here. That isn't going to come out of there. I'm just going to now work some soil into those edges. The ends are obviously very easy. As good as took more in. Yeah, that's a lot better. Then we get much more in there, and that's still nice and open there. A little clean off. Well, because of the perlite in this mix, I can't do my usual trick and give it a little tap down because it's on a concrete pot on my great granddad's table, so wouldn't be the best idea. I feel like I maybe should have done something about that root for him as well earlier on there, but there we go. There we go. So it did work out using a nice heavy bit of copper. Let's give that just one more check before we go engaging in the gravel. I'm quite happy we're not getting no more in there. I've got these these nice gravels here. But I think we'll use this one. A slightly larger one, slightly lighter colour as well. I'd say the gravel more than anything, just to keep that perlite down. And it will hold some more moisture in there in the summer as well, because you see stuff in the sun just beating the top and evaporating it so easily. And then I say next spring we'll maybe reduce the root ball a little bit more. We'll make a slightly wider pot, and maybe I'll have this one back. It was hard to give up this concrete pot. There we go, so it looks a little bit tacky versus moss, but it will keep that perlite and that nice soil that we just put around this thing together. And I think that's quite a tidy, so it's quite a dramatic pot upgrade there. So it's got certainly a good pot to grow into there, hasn't it? And if you did now keep it as a bigger tree, if you wanted to, not saying that you wouldn't still restart this and add a bit more character, but definitely got the pot there if you wanted to make the plant a little bit bigger. I think we wasn't allowed to cut anything off, but I think we got to cut one bit off. So I think we got to cut one branch off. I might release a video before I take the tree back to get him hollering at the screen and watching it all the way through. But yeah, there's this part here. I just want to reduce this a little bit because this branch is getting quite chunky now, and these other ones have got to play catch up a little bit. So I think there's quite a nice union there, or a joint, with this coming off. So we're just gonna, I'm gonna cut it with a little stump left on, and we can trim that back up in summer. But it will just stop this getting much bigger then, and then we can encourage this on forward and maybe bring that out the way. This whole tree could do with a little bit of a prune back, but like I say, strict instructions not to, so we'll do what we're told on that one. Some long-standing viewers might have actually noticed I've got some proper bonsai tools for once. Normally I'm just using my Felcos, my building pliers, wire cutters, you know, that are general wire cutters. But yeah, I have invested in a few tools. I've got some slightly cheaper ones here, which I'm actually really quite happy with. I haven't, you know, put them to the absolute test yet, but I've trialed them and really quite pleased with them. I was a bit skeptical about buying, you know, mediocre price tools, so I went kind of down the middle with those, and yeah, really quite pleased with those so far. And then I bought some higher end tools. I always struggle to pronounce this name, so you know, there you go, you can see it there. Most people are familiar with that brand, and these are phenomenal. They seem so sharp. These are a little smaller set, and I've got a larger set of these as well, just branch cutters, and then I have got a knob cutter there as well, and I'm probably going to make my own branch splitter. I've got a few tools that I think would actually make a really good branch splitter. So I say I'm going to hope to encourage my brother to get that on the grinding wheel and fashion that for me, because it's a tool that you don't use very often. So I think if I could make one and it does the job, then why not for now. But yeah, really quite pleased with what we got, and these will be featuring obviously more and more now as we go on. I held back for ages and ages, didn't want to buy some kind of, you know, just absolute tap, and I seem to have made an all right decision there. So for the price of them, I think they were a good buy. I'm not paid to sell them, but yeah, if you were struggling to find a set, it might give you a bit of confidence. So yeah, I think that is that one done for now. We won't be getting on to what this pot's now going to be heading towards in this video. It's ended up a bit longer than I thought it probably would. But yeah, I think that's a good outcome there, and I think he'll be happy with that. And although not much has been done to this tree, it actually looks quite nice. You know, I do like it. I'm fond of this tree. I can't really argue with him on this one. He's got a dawn redwood that is looking like a set of deer's antlers. That's quite interesting. Again, though, it's kind of hard to pick on. It's not really correct, but it does have some nice characteristics. And the Buddhist pine, which will be going in this pot here. So yeah, there we go. There's that Japanese golden larch. and it's a little repotting in the homemade concrete pot. And just to finish this video as well, I'd like to say as well, again, thank you to the subs that we gained, all of you. And I haven't forgotten about the giveaway that I was meant to do at 1,000 subs. I haven't actually really, like I say, had the time or felt really up to making a nice pot to give away. I want to, you know, perfect that for you guys, whoever wins it, the lucky winner of it. If you've enjoyed that video, as always, if you could give it a thumbs up to help others find it, and if you're a new viewer, maybe consider subscribing to the channel. Thank you.